All right, so let's jump into the first big segment, which is equipment. There is a ton of equipment to talk about. This is something where people are asking me about it all the time. What camera should I buy? What power pack should I buy? Here's the honest truth. There is no one camera or one power pack that does everything for you. You want to have something that you can kind of grow into as your skills get better, but you want to buy something that's within your budget and not break the bank. So let's first talk about camera support. In the studio, you're going to see me use this guy, which is the Foba stand. This is a big beast. It's heavy, it's expensive. It's what I live and die on when I'm shooting in the studio. I know full well that most of you are not going to have access to this, but I still want you to see how it works. Now, I am going to use something a little bit different on the end of it, and that is the Vanguard ball head. This is kind of an entry-level ball head, so I'm kind of working with something that is a little bit more accessible to other people. It's not my go-to ball head, and I'm going to show you what I like about it and what I don't like about it. My ball head of choice actually is the Really Right Stuff. RRS is a great system, incredibly solid and very well machined. This ball head is really beautiful, super smooth, and I've got it on top of a set of sticks that's all carbon fiber. I recommend getting a decent set of sticks. You do not want to buy a tripod that's really flimsy or really cheap, because it's not going to give you the camera support that you need, and camera support, it's a critical piece. So now, let's talk cameras. When it comes to cameras, there are all kinds of cameras out there, and they run from a few $100 to $20, $30, $40, $50,000. And which one is the right one to buy? Well, that's a tough one. My normal camera is the Hasselblad H4D60. This is a big beast, 60 megapixel camera, huge sensor, incredible detail, great lenses. This is not something that most people have access to, and quite honestly, I don't shoot editorial food with this camera. It's just way too big. This is great for commercial work. What I do shoot a lot is my Canon 5D Mark III. Highly recommend this camera. This is a good full frame camera, accessible in terms of cost, great on quality, great lenses. We're going to show you a variety of different lenses that you can use on this camera. One of the other cameras that we're going to use is also in the Canon line, and that's the Mark IV. It's a bit more of a professional side, but it's got a 1.3 crop factor, meaning that the lenses on this camera, on the Mark III, are going to be different than what you use on the Mark IV. We're going to show you kind of how that looks a little bit different. Then the third Canon camera that we're going to take a look at is the 70D. Now this is much more of an entry-level camera and accessible to most people, but it's got a 1.6 magnification. So if I'm going to take my go-to lens, which is a 100mm macro, if I'm going to take that and put it on my full-frame sensor versus a 1.6, I'm going to have a very, very different look. So we're actually going to take the time, we're going to show you what this 100 is going to look like both on the Mark III and what it's going to look like on the 70D. And for that matter, we may even throw it on the Mark IV, just so you can really see how that crop magnification changes a lens. It's a really important feature. We're going to look at the 50mm, which is also a macro lens. This is a nice little lens. It's tight, it's compact, it's fairly inexpensive. You can get some decent images out of it. We're going to play with that quite a bit. One other thing we're going to do is work with an extension tube. Now what this does is it pushes the back element of the lens away from the sensor, the CCD, and it actually causes a magnification. So you're getting in closer with the lens. And we're going to put that on something like our 85-1.2, which is a gorgeous hunk of glass. We're going to see what these two do in combination. I think you're going to find it kind of interesting. All right, so let's jump into the next section, which is going to be all about lighting, creating light. So we're going to use a variety of power packs. We're going to show you everything from monoblock, which is the light and the power pack built in together, to using systems where you have separate power packs and separate heads. So one of the first things I'm going to show you is Alien Bees. This is kind of an entry-level power pack, and it's a monoblock and light together. This is, like I said, entry level. It's not super durable. Like this one's already kind of gotten busted up because it's just, you know, plastic and it's not the highest quality. But you can get a decent image using this lighting source, and we're going to show you how to do that. We're also going to work with kind of a mid-range, which is the Hensels. They make some really nice equipment, and we've got two power pack sources here where the light head and the power pack are separate. So you've got a power generator, and this particular one is the Nova, which is their in-studio, mainly in-studio power pack. It's a great option, gives you a lot of versatility, and gives you a wide range of power. You can plug in a couple of different lamps into this unit. We're also going to play with the Porty, which is their battery operated or battery generator. This thing is really nice to take on location. We're absolutely going to use it on location in some of the restaurants. This thing also allows you to plug two heads into it. Easy to use, lightweight. You can kind of take it anywhere and not be tethered to an electric outlet, which is great because a lot of times you need that. We're also going to work with Broncolor, which is kind of my go-to lighting source. I've been shooting with Broncolor for a long time. In fact, I've had these Grafite A2s a good decade or more. And we're going to pair those with our Broncolor Unilight heads, and we're going to work with them on a lot of our different modifiers. And one other thing we're going to show you is this little monoblock system right here. This is Visitech. This is a nice little monoblock where the power pack and the light are built together. And on the front of it, I've got a very unique spot attachment. This is something that's really kind of cool because I can get it nice and tight to give just a little bit of a kicker. Sometimes when you're working with food, you get these kind of caves almost where the food, kind of the shape of it gives you this dark spot. You can see on the front of it, I've got a polarizer taped to it, so if I want to knock down the highlight, I can easily do that by rotating it along with the polarizer on my lens. I've also got a little bit of diffusion on it, and I've got the ability to focus it as well. It's a nice little piece of equipment, and you're going to get to see how this works as well. And the last thing we're going to do is connect our light modifiers, our power packs, to our camera. So we've got two different systems. The first is going to be the Pocket Wizard. This is the Pocket Wizard X. Very simple to use, just has a little dial, attaches to the top via a hot shoe, and then plugs in via a cord to your power pack in order to trigger. Sometimes these things are a little futzy, and we have another option which is actually nice. It's very inexpensive. It's a little studio kit. This mounts onto the hot shoe of the camera, while this guy goes directly into the power pack. And in this case, we use one on every single power pack just to make sure that it's all firing. They work very well. They're simple, efficient, and inexpensive. And now the fun begins because we get into modifiers. We have just a few. The crew has done a pretty good job of pulling the modifiers that we have in the studio. We're going to show you how to use almost all of these, if not all of them. They all create very different light, but again, it's all about harnessing that light, figuring out how you want to shape it and how you want to bring your set together. Up here we have a couple of Broncolor Para 88s, and those are my go-to. I use these guys all the time, particularly on big commercial shoots, where I'm running two different sets. They're beautiful lights. I can create them in a way where the light is identical from one set to the next, and I can kind of bounce back and forth. That's not something we're going to do here because, again, this whole tutorial is all about simplistic food styling and you kind of doing it on your own. We're going to show you the Para 88. We're going to show you how that works, but we're also going to look at something like a Palsy Buff or a Chimera Octabox, which can create very similar light at a completely different price point. So we're going to get into that and really kind of play with these different modifiers. I've also got some giant sources. We have got huge rectangular banks. We've got the giant Para 220. We might get into that guy. That's a beast. We've also got giant Octaboxes, and we're going to show you how these different modifiers will create light differently. Each one has a very different characteristic to it. We're going to kind of illustrate for you how that works and what you can do in order to shape that. Now, shaping your light is something that is critical, and one of the things that I use is my dot and finger kit. This is a very simple little kit of tools that allows you to kind of craft light by cutting parts out, kind of knocking it down. Like this is simply a flag that will really knock out light, where this little guy, this finger, is going to knock down a portion of the light. And we've got other things like dots that are just going to take out a little bit of light here and there. So we're going to work on kind of shaping light. And with that, we've got other things like reflectors. These guys go on different systems. You can see the incredible, shape difference that we have. This is for Broncolor, while this is for the Hensel. The other thing that we want to show you is how these different light shapers connect to the different power packs. There are systems called speed rings. This one is made for Broncolor, but any Chimera box I want to put on here, I can use it on Broncolor, or I can switch and I can grab a speed ring for the Hensel and I can put that same Chimera modifier on a Hensel light. One of the things that's really nice about that is as you grow in your photography skills and when you want to step up from one power pack system to the next, maybe there's a cost advantage but you want to move up, you can use a lot of your same modifiers, just change out your speed ring, which is a fraction of the cost versus buying a whole new modifier. Alright, so that's kind of a quick look at some of the equipment that we're going to use. Again, lots of modifiers, and we're going to sit down and talk about how we use them, how we shape light, what we use to diffuse them and make them a little bit softer and kind of bring that interest into our set. We're going to shift gears though next, and we're going to take a look at composition and food. So we're going to sit down with a whole bunch of food and we're going to talk about how to approach the food, what to look for in the grocery stores, how to really look at an object and say, okay, I know what feature I want to pull out of this in order to create a great composition on set.